Hello everybody, it's around noon on Thursday and a very warm welcome on an absolutely gorgeous day here in Evansville, Indiana. It's unusually warm, around 80 degrees today, and kind of our last little blast of fake summer before winter comes along fairly soon, we presume. Today's music I'm going to be playing here on our fantastic Fisk organ, completed in 1991, celebrating its 29th birthday yesterday, on the 21st. I think that's pretty close to the day. And often at this time of year we'll have a celebration of the birthday of our instrument. Most of the music today, with one exception, is based on old dances and old music. We have a wedding coming up on Saturday, so the first piece I'm going to play is a piece which I'm playing as part of the Prelude for that happy occasion this coming Saturday. It is the air, commonly known as the air on a G string by Johann Sebastian Bach, and it's from Violin Suite number 3 in D major. A very well-known piece. I actually tend not to play pieces which are so well-known, because in a moment of nervousness, your finger can slip or your foot can slip, and all of a sudden, everybody in the world knows that you've played the wrong notes, because they know the music so well. But anyway, I'm going to give it my best shots, and hope you enjoy JS Bach's Air on a G string. Continuing now with music by JS Bach, this time a Sicilian from a flute sonata in E-flat major. A little bit unusual about the registration I'm going to use today is that one of the very softest stops on the organ, the stopped diapason up here in the swell, which contains the oldest pipes in the organ, is going to be accompanied at 4-foot pitch but played down an octave on the similar vintage chimney flute here in the grate. So these are by far the very oldest pipes in the organ, dating back to the 1870s Marshall Brothers instrument. And the last time I got to play this was with a real flute player the day before everything went into lockdown. My dear friend and colleague Leanne Hampton and I played this on harpsichord and flute. So I have very happy memories of that, and hopefully this Siciliano, arranged by C.H. Trevor, brings some light to your day. And next, a chorale prelude by Bach, again arranged by C.H. Trevor, taken from a cantata. Cantata number 75, Was Gott tut, das ist wohlgetan. Funnily enough, this was the melody which I was given the first time I was in the final of the National Improvising Competition in 2000 in Seattle. And it didn't go very well, to be honest. I struggled to control the organ. Actually, it was two organs controlled by one console about half a mile apart in the fantastic space that is, I think, St. James Cathedral, Roman Catholic Cathedral in Seattle. So I have mixed feelings about this melody, but we do sing it here in church as a hymn, and we sing it to the words, whate'er my God ordains is right. Here the melody is going to be played in the feet using the 4-foot super octave down here. These pipes date from the 1937 Cassavant rebuild, which was placed up in the tower here. I'm very glad that the organ is no longer placed in the tower. With leaky windows, and the weather was quite adept at getting in onto the organ from the get-go, though it was quite a substantial three-manual instrument. The accompaniment is going to be the 8 and 4 foot flutes over here on the grate, and the little melody twirling away on top is going to be the stop diapason and the nasard. The nasard is a mutation, which means that it's not a pure octave break between where the stops are. So, for example, if I draw an 8 foot, you can hear that pitch there, and if I draw a 4 foot, it's an octave higher, and the 2 foot is an octave higher than that. Well, the nasard lives between the 4 and 2 foots. It's 2 and 2/3. You might even say it's 3 feet long. And so between these two pitches, we find the nasard living here, which is an octave and a 12th above the standard keyboard pitch. So when we add them both together, you get some rather cool parallel fifth stuff going on down in there. But up higher on the keyboard, you get a nice, pure, clean, ringing tone where the harmonics of the 8 foot pitch are brightened up and given new colour by the 2 and 2/3. Now, we're going to step back in time into the 16th century, the late 16th century, and some keyboard music by the great English composer William Byrd, B-Y-R-D. Byrd lived an extraordinarily long time, given the era in which he lived. He was born around 1543, but he became famous enough that we know when he died, which was 1623. in his 80th year, which in Elizabethan times was almost unheard of to have such extraordinary longevity. The organs in England at that time were quite small, though some of them did have 2 keyboards, and they were referred to as double organs, but they were, we believe, a combination of actually 2 truly different kinds of organs, one which were at different pitches. So it's a little bit unlikely that they used both of the keyboards at the same time, because we know from extant models from these different time periods that they wouldn't have sounded together at the same height. One was much lower, we think, than today's pitch, and the other one was a little bit higher, because the organ builders at the time described the lowest notes on the keyboard being 10 feet long, whereas our lowest notes on our standard keyboard are 8 feet long. So that puts the pitch in a slightly different place. However, I am actually going to change manuals, because I got inspired to think that at least Bird had seen an organ that might have had two keyboards, as we have here, and so I will make a little change a couple of times. This is a fancy, literally fancy, as in kind of cool and sweet and nice, and it's in a number of different sections, and some of which are quite dancey and jaunty, and the style often begins very slowly with long notes, with some sort of imitative stuff moving around, and increasingly you get smaller and smaller divisions of the beat. And the style was actually called the division style because the music appears to get faster and faster, even though the underlying tempo remains exactly the same. The composers just wrote more and more little notes in there I guess, excite themselves or show off, or give the organist the opportunity to show what they could do. So, A Fancy by William Byrd. So, often modern composers look to older composers for inspiration, and musicians of the 20th century are no different. So next I'm going to play, and to close the program, I'm going to play three pieces. The first is an arrangement of Greensleeves, a melody which goes back to that same period where William Byrd was writing in the late 16th century, I believe. And Vaughan Williams was very interested in older music and music of earlier times, in addition to folk songs from all over the British Isles. And he and I think it was Gerald Finzi sort of ran around the countryside visiting pubs and writing down the songs that ordinary people, farmers and labourers, would sing in their spare time and while they worked. So this is a sort of romanticisation of an earlier period. So starting with an arrangement for organ of a piece which Vaughan Williams wrote for, a lush string orchestra based on the melody Greensleeves. And finally, two pieces from more imitation old music by the composer Peter Warlock, who was a contemporary of Vaughan Williams and was very active at the beginning of the 20th century. It's actually a pseudonym for Philip Heseltine, but Peter Warlock was quite a famous composer of song and orchestral music. And one of the pieces which he wrote was called the Capriol Suite. And it was completed in 1926 and is based on ancient dances quoted in a well-known 16th century treatise on dancing, the Orchestrography, written by Johann Tabouret, who was a French priest whose real name was Abreu, which was published in 1589. So right around the time that perhaps Bird was writing his dances and sets of books. The book was written in the form of a dialogue between the author and a lawyer called Capriol, who wishes to learn the art of dancing. So this afternoon, first of all for you, I'm going to play the Vaughan. This was a ceremonial court dance of the early 16th century, probably of Spanish origin, executed in slow, solemn movements and with dignified gestures, imitating in a way the proud deportment of the pavo, or the peacock. The Vaughan reached remarkable height of perfection under the hands of William Byrd, John Bull, Orlando Gibbons, and John Dowland. And you may remember a few weeks ago, I played some of that material on the harpsichord downstairs. So, first of all, the Vaughan from the Capriol Suite, which will then be followed by the Basse Dance, which was a ceremonial court dance of the Burgundian culture, but of earlier origin than the Vaughan. So in other words, perhaps even going back into the 15th or 14th centuries. It was usually in moderate tempo and was characterized by the gliding or walking movement of the feet, in contrast to the jumping movements of other dances. So these have been arranged by S. Drummond Wolfe, music by Peter Warlock, inspired by music and dances from centuries ago. So, a day of dance. Thank you so much for joining me. Be sure to join us for worship at 8:30 and 10:30 on Sunday mornings, either online or here in person in our socially distanced, very socially distanced space here. We have plenty of room if you'd like to come by. Otherwise, we look forward to joining you here next Thursday, where we have a guest artist. Eric Matson is going to come down from the Jacobs School of Music at IU Bloomington and present a concert of music, which was first programmed in late March, was then postponed again in June, and we are delighted that he will finally be able to join us next week. So, look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.